Then it's not about you, Melvin said coldly. It's probably someone trying to get at me. My enemies know you're my wife, so they used you to embarrass me. I wouldn't be surprised if they sent that fake waiter just to humiliate me publicly. Anita's heart sank. I'm so sorry I let them use me. I promise, I won't let anything like that happen again. I'll be more careful. And I'll look out for you too, sir. No one will ever hurt you if I can stop it. Melvin smiled faintly. Just focus on resting, all right? I'll be really busy today. I've already ordered breakfast. It'll arrive in about an hour. If you're hungry later, just use the phone next to your bed to call for lunch. I will, Anita said. Thank you again, and I'm so sorry for what happened. I'll do better. He patted her gently on the head. Okay then. I'll see you later. As he left the room, Anita felt her heart flutter. No matter what happened next, she knew one thing for sure. Melvin was someone she'd cherish forever. After Melvin left, Anita locked the door behind him and went back to bed, curling beneath the blanket. Her thoughts drifted back to the night before, how Melvin had held her in his arms, stroking her hair until she fell asleep. She wished that moment had been captured on camera. Still craving memories, she picked up her phone and went online to search for their photos and videos. Her favorite was from their wedding. Even though it was all an act, the way Melvin stared at her, kissed her, it all looked so real, so tender. If she weren't the one involved, she might have truly believed it was love. Anita smiled as she told herself, even if none of this lasts, I will always have these memories to hold on to. These videos were her treasures, snapshots of the most beautiful moments of her life. She spent the day freshening up, eating, watching videos, and napping. But after a while, boredom crept in. The silence made her restless. She turned on the TV and noticed a weather report warning of dangerous conditions. A heavy storm had hit the city, and citizens were advised to stay indoors. Worried, she looked out the window. Rain fell in thick sheets. Her thoughts instantly went to Melvin. He had said he would be back late due to meetings. But what if those meetings were outside the hotel? She picked up her phone and tried calling him. His line was unavailable. It must be the network, she thought nervously. Still, unease filled her chest. What if something happened to him? Suddenly, her phone rang. Anita's heart leapt. She rushed to pick it up, expecting to see Melvin's name, but it was an unsaved number. Confused, she answered. A male voice spoke. Am I speaking with Mrs. Anita Gray? Yes, she replied, her voice cautious. I'm very sorry to inform you, the man said, but your husband has been in a terrible accident. He's alive, but badly injured. We found your number in his phone. He needs you now. Anita gasped, her entire body going cold. Where is he? I don't know the city. Please tell me what to do. It's not far from your hotel, the man said. Just exit the hotel, take the street to your left, and go all the way down. You'll see him there. Hurry. The call ended before she could ask anything else. Her hands trembled as she stared at her screen. Tears filled her eyes. She dialed Melvin again. Still unavailable. Not wasting another second, she threw on a white gown and ran toward the door. Her only thought, Melvin needs me. At the reception, the two hotel clerks looked up in alarm as she rushed toward the exit without an umbrella. Please wait, the female clerk called out. You can't go out in this weather. It's dangerous. Anita turned to them, soaked already by the rain that sprayed in from the open door. My husband's had an accident. He needs me now. Without another word, she ran into the storm. She stopped outside the gate, panting, eyes darting. Had the man said to go left or right? She had been in such a hurry she left her phone behind, not wanting it ruined by the downpour. She tried to remember, certain he said left. No, maybe it was right. There's no time. Melvin needs me. She picked a direction and sprinted down the street to her right, praying she had made the correct choice. Jasmine stood at her balcony, sipping champagne as she watched Anita flee into the storm. She smirked. Too easy. Everything had gone exactly as she planned. After hearing the storm forecast the night before, she saw the perfect opportunity. She made sure Melvin couldn't be reached and ensured Anita would believe he was in danger. She raised her glass and dialed a number. "She's on her way," Jasmine said. "No mistakes. I want her gone. Make it look like an accident." "Understood," the voice on the other end replied. She ended the call, satisfied. "Enjoy your little rescue mission, Anita. It's the last thing you'll ever do." Melvin stirred from his nap and rubbed his eyes. He glanced at the time, past 6 p.m. He had cancelled his last meeting due to the weather and intended to check on Anita, but decided to let her rest. Now, guilt prickled at him. He got up, looking for his phone. It was nowhere in sight. He searched his pockets, his bag, nothing. He frowned, recalling his last meeting. Did I forget it there? He hurried to the meeting room in the hotel, but didn't find it there. On his way back, something caught his eye, a phone lying on the floor right in front of his door. He picked it up and sighed. How the hell did this fall here without me noticing? The screen was dark, his phone had been in flight mode. He turned it off, and as it reconnected, several notifications buzzed in. He opened Anita's room, planning to say goodnight, but froze when he found it empty. Her phone was still on the bed, her apple half-eaten. She had left in a hurry. Panic hit. He searched the hotel and found no trace of her. At the reception, he showed them her picture. The man pointed. "Yes, she ran out into the rain earlier. We warned her, but she said her husband had an accident and she had to go." Melvin's heart dropped. What? Back in her room, he checked her call history. A number, unsaved, had contacted her right before she left. He redialed it. No response. A wave of dread washed over him. This couldn't be random. Someone got her drunk the night before, and now lured her out into a storm with a lie? He clenched his fists. Someone is trying to hurt her. Or use her to hurt me. He bolted for the exit. "Anita, please be okay." Anita kept running until she reached the end of the street. Her soaked clothes clung to her skin, and her feet splashed through puddles as she frantically called out, "Sir? Melvin? Where are you?" Not a single soul was in sight. The streets were empty, swallowed by the storm. Wind howled, and rain poured relentlessly. If not for the streetlights, she wouldn't have seen a thing. Shivering violently, she stood at the corner, heart sinking. Melvin was nowhere to be found. She suddenly realized she had gone the wrong way. The call had said left, not right. It had taken her nearly an hour to reach the end of the street, and now she had to walk all the way back and try the opposite side. Her legs were heavy, her breath shallow, and the cold gnawed at her bones. Still, Anita turned around, determined to get to the other street. "Melvin needs me," she told herself. Meanwhile, Melvin drove out of the hotel, starting his search from the street on the left, assuming that Anita would have gone that way. He slowly drove, scanning the sidewalks and road edges. Halfway down the street, he spotted a car by the side of the road with a tree slammed over its windscreen. He paused, studying the wreckage. The car was empty. Not far from it, under a small shelter, stood a man. The man looked suspicious. Rough-looking. Out of place. Melvin's instincts flared. Something wasn't right. He quickly rolled up his window and drove past. What he didn't know was that the man had instantly recognized him. The man dialed Jasmine. "She didn't come this way," he said. "I've been here an hour. Not even a shadow." But her husband just drove past. He's looking for her. Jasmine hissed in frustration. That foolish girl. She must have gone the wrong way. She gritted her teeth, then snapped, "Abort the mission. It's not safe anymore. Melvin's seen you. I'll think of another plan." "Understood," the man said before ending the call. Melvin drove to the end of the street and searched nearby alleys and sheds. No sign of Anita. His worry deepened. The storm was dangerous, falling trees, debris flying across the road. If Anita had truly gone out in this, she could be seriously hurt. Or worse. He turned the car around and drove toward the other street, the one to the right. If she had misunderstood the directions from the call, that's likely where she would be. Anita continued walking through the torrent of rain. Her body shook violently. Her feet dragged against the pavement. Every part of her ached. Her teeth chattered uncontrollably, and her breath came in short gasps. She tried to wipe the rain off her face, but her arms felt like dead weight. She paused in the middle of the road, dizzy and weak. Her vision blurred, and tears streamed down her face, mixing with the rain. "I'm going to die," and I couldn't even help him. Then, headlights. A car pulled into the street. The bright beams landed on Anita's soaked figure. The vehicle stopped. Melvin stared from behind the wheel, his heart racing when he saw her standing motionless in the middle of the street. "What the hell?" he muttered. He jumped out of the car and ran toward her. "Anita, what are you doing?" Her eyes widened when she heard his voice. She turned, startled, and for a second didn't believe her eyes. "Sir," she breathed. "Anita," he called again, reaching her. Without hesitation, she flung herself into his arms and sobbed uncontrollably. "Sir, you're alive. You're okay, thank God." Melvin held her, gently stroking her wet hair. Her entire body trembled in his arms. Her gown was soaked through, and she looked like she could collapse any second.